It's D-Day, ladies and gentlemen. UFC 312 sees the middleweight champion and the pride of South Africa, Dricus Du Plessis, take on Sean Strickland in what promises to be a fantastic rematch. We're previewing this and more this time on Fighting with Friends. Welcome back to Fighting with Friends, the undisputed African fighting podcast champion of the world. And speaking of champions, ladies and gentlemen, I have with me today the reigning, defending, undisputed vegan champion of the world. That is, of course, Brother Gaia.
Yes. Let's go. DDP
Let's
time, bruh.
go. It
It's always,
is, in fact, DDP time, bruh.
yeah, it's always a good time to watch him fight.
Always a good time, and always a good time to see you, BG. And also, of course, always good to see, ladies and gentlemen, the CPS, FWF, BMF champion of the world, ladies and gentlemen. Only professional record now, 22-0. It's now Zim Al Nino, aka Babu.
Yeah, so
Yo,
how
Babu.
we looking, boys?
I
OG
didn't think you
Babu.
were gonna make it.
Right
Yeah,
on
on
time,
time.
bruh. Right on time. As I hit the
Yeah.
title card, Babu pulled in. Nice one, bruh. Perfect timing. Bruh, it's a sign that everything is going to go well for UFC 312, boys, and that means a victory for Dricus Du Plessis. But as always, boys, we start at the
Top
top
of
of
the
the
car.
card. Come on,
Yeah.
guys. You said the last time you were going to
Oh
say it.
yes.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
we forgot.
But anyway, boys, it is DDP versus Sean Strickland, DDP 22-2, undefeated in the UFC. Last time out beating Israel Adesanya by fourth round submission. Coming up against Sean Strickland, 29-6, last fight out beat Paulo Costa by another split decision in his career. So, boys, how does Dricus get it done? And how happy are we going to be afterwards? BG, give us your thoughts here, please, bro.
Yeah, dude, you put up some really good stats there with regards to Sean Strickland, especially with that split decision wins and losses in his career. It's very important to pay attention to that because I think it does sort of paint the picture of what Sean Strickland kind of is in terms of what kind of fighter he really is. But to answer your question on how we think the fights, how I think the fight's going to go, or how I think Dricus is going to get the job done, I think it's going to finish Sean Strickland this time. I think that I actually watched that fight back the first time, and when I watched the fight live the first time, I gave Sean Strickland 2 rounds, and that was round one, round five, possibly even round two. But then I watched the fight back again, and I honestly had a hard time giving Sean Strickland any round. Really, I was like, it's actually so competitive. Watching it back with no audio, I was thinking, you know what? Because was actually a lot more active than I thought he was in that fight. He was winning most of the rounds quite convincingly, actually, and I think he's going to be so much better than what he was in that first fight. And like you said, Sean Strickland's jab and his deep kicks doesn't really put him in a position where he feels like he's fearful of it. Like he can actually get stopped from Strickland by those particular strikes, and that just means that Dricus personally feels that he's going to go in there and just smother Sean and actually take him out a lot earlier than what people anticipate for this fight. Because I look at Sean Strickland's style, right? It's very much a dance if you think about it. He recycles only through three or four strikes if you think about this. It's jab, it's a right cross, it's a deep kick, and that's about it actually. And you will variate that combinations of those three moves. You'll keep into a 1-2, you'll jab twice into a right cross, and that's pretty much all he does. And sometimes you'll lift up that front kick just to check. And I was talking to Tyler's dad about this fight, and I was saying if there's something that Circus can do differently in this fight, that he did the first fight, because Sean Strickland is such a very good defensive fighter. That's his best attribute, which is his defense. Instead of going there and try to outstrike him by maybe stopping his momentum or putting on combinations on him, there's a gap that Circus can exploit in this fight. The gap is whenever Sean walks forward, he always lifts up his legs. Does this marching thing where he moves his knees up like that to check whatever his opponent is giving at him, which is a low kick, right? So when he lifts up a leg, that's an opportunity to shoot on him because you can't defend a takedown with one leg up in the air. There's no defense for that. You're gonna have to take the takedown. So if Dricus is clever, when Sean is doing that walk forward and knees up high and trying to check, he can fake a leg kick or pump a leg kick to get Sean to lift up his knee and then shoot on that opportunity and take the fight to the ground. Because that's when Sean's defense actually drops. Other than that, his defense never really drops if you think about it. He's just very competent in that defense. So Dricus is going to have to take the fight into positions where it's taking Sean Strickland outside of his comfort zone, just like he did in the first fight by pushing the pace, but then having to add a bit more other than just trying to strike him and land on him as convincingly. Maybe get Sean's defense to shift from top to bottom and then strike in those kind of moments or shoot in those kind of moments. I do think Dricus has a lot more avenues to win the fight. I think he's a better grappler. I think he pushes the pace in ways that Sean Strickland can't. He can take the fight into deep waters for quite significant chunk of the fight. And for that reason, I think he's going to be the champion and we're going to hear and still come this weekend.
Very nicely done, BG. BG giving you all the insights that you need. And hopefully Dricus is listening and he'll take your advice shooting the takedown when Sean's coming in, lifting that leg. So very nicely done there, BG. Babu, from your side, so how do you see this one playing out?
Something that stood out to me a lot was there was actually two things from either fighter to one from either fighter. From Sean's side, him saying that he got eye poked and then in his other eye there was blood flowing. It seemed like a weak cop out to say why he lost the fight, and it reminded me of Ioana Jacek against Rose Namajunas, where she made some excuse, and the excuse didn't sit well with me because I was like, that excuse doesn't validate the performance that you have put out. And one thing DDP said was the Sean Strickland fight was the first 5-rounder that he had in about 5 or 6 years. So he wasn't sure how his cardio would hold up, and he wasn't sure like what his gas tank would look like in the championship rounds. And you must factor in the nerves of fighting for a UFC title. Like, this is what you've always been working towards, like literally a life goal, and like you fighting somebody else for it. So that like stood out to me because it reminded me like, oh yeah, like he could have been nervous in that first and second round, like going out there against Sean Strickland, who just put on a clinic against Idara Adesanya, who people will look at as a middleweight GOAT. So like obviously you're gonna feel intimidated by the moment slightly. And something that came forward in this fight is he's already fought 5 rounds with Sean Strickland. He's already gone like three to 4 rounds with Adesanya. He's been in the championship rounds already. And one thing he said is he's going to push the pace more because he knows his cardio is going to hold up. So he's going to go out there and put on a real clinic. And I agree with you, BG, that like we're going to see a finish in this fight. And I think DDP gets it done like as smoothly as possible. One thing that also stood out that I heard like in conversation was somebody saying like when they look at Sean Strickland and the way he fights with that fully shell, like why don't people kick his arms
or tip him?
Yeah, and Mighty Mouse and DDP did like a small interview, and that's what something Mighty Mouse said, like why don't you kick his arms? And I think that is something that flies under the radar because you're talking to one of the GOATs in MMA across multiple companies, and if he can see a hole in somebody else's game, you might as well use it. And I'm sure DDP has gone through all the training possible, and he's well acclimated now to Australian climate. So I think he just gets it done, and I don't think Sean Strickland looks as good as he did in that first fight.
Give thanks, Babu. BG.
Yes, I just wanted to add one more thing. Sean Strickland doesn't really knock people out, if we're being honest. If you look at his victories in the UFC, he'll maybe drop you, but he doesn't knock you out. He doesn't submit you. He kind of just makes you fold, right? And Dricus, very rarely do we see Dricus fold against anybody. He's got such a very incredible gas tank and conditioning. Izzy, when he fought Izzy last, Izzy was piecing up on Dricus. He was hitting some heavy body kicks and body shots. And Dricus looked like he didn't even feel a thing. There was a moment where he did go, you could see, but the conditioning on him to actually go that rounds and then actually pull up the the victory by showcasing a very good stamina into the fourth round by beating Easy Lagat, highlighted to me that he's leveled up. He's leveled up since the fight against Strickland. He's leveled up dramatically, actually, and I'm very excited to see the new attributes that Chris is going to bring to this fight. As well as Strickland, I want to see what I want to see. What I want to see from Strickland is, can he wrestle? Can he change the fight's dynamics from just boxing to actually wrestling? Put it on Dricus, make him fight you. You know what I mean? Because Dricus was kind of walking him down and almost bullying him to a point in that first fight. You can go watch the tape back. You can see Dricus was having fun after round 2. He was like, all right, now this fight's gonna rip. I'm gonna have fun with this, bro. And uh, Coach Eric Nixie came out and said on a podcast with Michael Bisping, Strickland never admitted this out on camera, but what he told Nixie was, I got outdogged that night. Like, Dricus outdogged me. You know what I mean? And it's not often fighters go and admit that about to anybody. They don't really, because of that egotistical and I want to beat this person again. So they really do. They actually admit that the other fighter really like just was just a bigger dog than you were on the night. And he admitted it. And Nixie was like, yeah, this dude literally pushed you aside. He made you look like you were nothing, and you need to fight back. So I want to see what Strickland does next. Can he actually go in there and stomp an authority on Dricus? Because I honestly don't see
I
it
do,
happening. But, yeah.
I do think one of the biggest things that goes for Strickland is DDP. When Strickland lands that jab on him in that first fight, DDP swelled up really quickly. And like, I think like in terms of like Strickland's way to a victory is like keep landing that jab as frequent as possible, and maybe you can swallow one of that eyes closed and get a doctor stoppage, or you can hinder his sight really, and then like keep landing on him because he's going to be compromised.
Yeah, definitely a good point there, Babu. The jab was definitely a factor in the first fight. I will agree. But yeah, unfortunately, again, not too much controversy from my side. I do agree with a lot of what you guys are saying. Just to your point there, BG. You're not gonna outdog Dricus, my bro. You're not gonna outdog Dricus over 5 rounds. It's just not gonna happen. And again, like you said, Sean doesn't finish people. He's not gonna KO Dricus in the first round. And you gotta feel that the longer that the fight goes on, the more it's gonna favor Dricus. So yeah, again, I also think he's gonna finish him. And I see it coming around round 3, and it's probably gonna be a rear naked choke in my mind. He's
Submission.
gonna drop him on the hands and then take him down and sub him.
I can see it as well.
That's the way I see it going down. But okay, Babu, any final thoughts from your side on this one?
Nah, I think we're gonna. I don't think anybody that's been champion is gonna outdog DDP for a while, and I think the tougher fights is later in the year when he comes up against like a Chimaev, or if there's another young up, and if Baralho does win another one and Dricus has 4 Chimaevs already, then I can see Cal Baralho and Dricus maybe having something there. But I think for now, South Africa on top. With South Africa on top.
We out here, bro. We out here.
Sorry, Eddie, what was that?
Sorry, last word goes to you. Then we'll keep it moving.
Yeah, I'm just to touch on that jab that Babu was talking about, and this is the last thing I'll talk about that jab is, Dricus did say when he reflected on that fight, because the jab wasn't hurting him, he kind of neglected the jab, and that's what was making him take it all the time, and that's what was swelling him up. He was like, it's not actually hurting him, so that he can actually just take the shot and go in, which in hindsight wasn't the smartest thing, because it did swell his eye up and could have easily damaged the eye to the point, like Babu said, it could have been a doctor stoppage. So I do think Dricus can be a bit more confident in that defense, not overlook the jab that much. It might not be stinging you, but it's definitely making him win because he's landing consistently. So Dricus has to be a bit more confident on that defense when it comes to that boxing stance, because that's exactly what Strickland's going to want to do. I don't think he's really going to try and wrestle, even though I think he should, to put the fight in his favor. I don't know if he's going to really attempt to do that. So Dricus has to just watch that jab when he enters.
Nicely done, BG. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, let us know in the comments your thoughts on this one. But anyway, boys, let's keep moving then. And now we go to a women's strawweight title bout. And here we see arguably the greatest MMA fighter coming out of China ever, Zhang Weili, who is 25-3. Her last fight out against Yan Shunan, she won by unanimous decision. She's coming up against the undefeated Tatiana Suarez, who won her last fight against Jessica Andrade by second round sub. That, by the way, back all the way back in 2023. So she hasn't
Mm,
fought for the entirety of 2024. So
mm.
BG, do you think that's going to be a factor here? And what are your thoughts on how this one plays out?
So firstly, this fight is probably one of the most anticipated women's fight they can put together in UFC right now. Just because if anyone knows Tatiana Suarez and knows the body of work that she's done, you understand why people are hyping this fight up so much. And I'm not mistaken, the betting odds are slightly in the Tatiana Suarez's favor in this fight. I think she's the favorite, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah,
which is
Is that true?
in,
Wow.
I think
yeah,
she is the favorite exactly. So that for me is sort of surprising, but also not surprising because I've watched Tatiana since the induction into the UFC in the Ultimate Fighter House, and she was tearing up everybody with ease. I've never seen someone in the UFC women's division that is as dominant as she is on the ground, bar Amanda Nunes. I mean, we had what's the other woman's name? I keep forgetting the name. Ronda Rousey. But Ronda Rousey was at the time was competing in a division where UFC was only trying to fill up a roster. So she was fighting against a bunch of not like a talented pool of elite people, elite athletes at the time when Ronda was competing. When Amanda was on top, the UFC's women division was filled up with a lot of elite athletes at the time, strikers, grapplers, and so on. Tatiana Suarez, when she entered, I was like, yo, this is going to be a champion. She is looking very dangerous. At the time, she wasn't even that good of a striker. She leveled up her striking game as well. Granted, it's not on the same level as Weili's striking. I think Weili's still the better striker than she is, faster, more powerful, more dynamic with Weili's striking. But Tatiana Suarez is bigger. She's taller. She's much fuller. She's aggressive when it comes to grappling, like super, super aggressive. In fact, I would even love to see a grappling match between Tatiana Suarez and Valentina Shevchenko. It would be an amazing grappling match to watch. That's how high I rate Tatiana Suarez grappling. And I do think that she can tap out anybody in between the two divisions, between the flyweight and strawweight division. So I think she's going to be the toughest challenge for Weili in a very long time. Granted, Weili lost to Rose Namajunas twice, and those are very incredible fights that she had, even against Gianna Jacek. But I think Tatiana Suarez beat Gianna Jacek in her prime. Honestly, I think she's that good. So Weili's gonna have to. Weili's gonna have to what she does all the time, which is dig deep in this fight because you can expect Suarez to go in there and make Weili fight a very uncomfortable fight. She mixes it up really, really well. So does Weili. But in this one, I just got the feeling that Suarez is going to take it into deep waters, and it's going to be a fight where Weili's going to have to go to hell and back to pull a win out of this fight. It's going to be that close for me. Who I think is going to win? I never really in my entire life since Weili has been fighting the UFC bet against her. I never have, but this may be the first time where I might just bet against Weili. I'm going to go with Tatiana Suarez to get the job done.
Nicely done, BG. Breaking history there, going against Zhang Weili for the very first time. So you saw it
Yeah.
here first, ladies and gentlemen. Babu, from your side, sir, are you in agreement with BG here, or are you going for the GOAT to win this one?
uh, I can't go against the grain on this one. Yeah, I just think she as good as Wiley is. I think her and Jessica Andrade have a similar style, and it's just like a bully type of front foot power style. And seeing what Tatiana did with Jessica Andrade, I don't think Wiley can offer something different. I think maybe a
Whoa.
timing and the striking is a bit different, but I don't think it's gonna be like a massive change that you need to like have. And I think like Tatiana is experienced enough to know that like she can land a takedown and she can get into the clinches and threaten Whaley with a lot of submissions that Whaley
Mm.
might not be expecting or hasn't rolled enough. So
Mm,
yeah, I think Tatiana gets the job done.
Yo, I think it's gonna be a
yo,
lot more closer than that, Babu. To be honest, I think
Uh,
Weili is a lot better than Jessica Andrade on every level. She's a lot more
I,
technical. She put her out in
I
the first
understand,
round. You know what I
but
mean?
they have a similar like they rely on power to get the job done. They don't rely on any other way to get the job done. They don't go for like
Yeah,
ground and pounds. They don't go for submissions.
really?
They rely. I don't know.
I don't know. I think
haven't seen
Weili
this.
leveled up big time, bro. Weili's game has changed. I know what you're saying. When she came in, before she won the title, the first time, she was heavily relying on that boxing and that power she has in those hands. She was knocking everyone out left, right, and center. But when Rose beat her, I think she leveled up, bro. She changed so much. Weili has changed. Since that fight, she's grappled in every fight. She's been taking fights to the ground. Her last opponent, she put that opponent into a crucifix and basically almost beat the fight in that position. She's really changed the game dramatically, and I think it's going to be a lot more competitive than what we are describing it here. Just because I think Suarez is going to win the fight, I don't think it's going to be an easy fight for Suarez. I think she's going to have to, just like Weili, go to the depths. Both these women after this fight is going to be different fighters after this. They're going to change after
I
this
don't
fight.
know. I don't think it's gonna be that much. I think I agree. Weili is good, but I just can't see Tatiana having too much of a tough time. And offensive wrestling and defensive wrestling is way different.
Oh,
That's
hectic.
just the way it is.
Massive
In
statements here
the Yan
on
Shaddan fight,
fighting with friends.
in the Yan Shaddan fight, like Weili was the aggressive wrestler. But what happens when you get put on your back foot? How do you sprawl? How do you navigate bottom? Can you get back up against a fighter that's bigger, longer than you?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
threatening like submissions. That's the only
And
thing.
I hear what you're saying
Because
because she also sorry, Bob, she also struggled with when she wrestled with Rose Weili. She didn't do too well in the wrestling exchanges against Rose Namajunas, and I think Tatiana Suarez bullies Rose. In fact, Tatiana Suarez even said in the interview now in the last press conference that Rose actually asked her to not call her name out, and then Tatiana was like, "But why? You are the next person in line to fight against you that rank above me." And Rose was like, "I'm gonna go to a different division." And then it made it easier for Tatiana Suarez to actually climb up the rankings a bit further because Rose didn't want to take that fight against her, which tells you a lot, by the way, about what Tatiana Suarez is like. Rose is a former champion. She was like, I don't want that heat. I don't want that heat at all.
Mm, mm. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let us know in the comments how you see this one going. As you can see, lots to discuss going into this one. So, Babu, I know you said a dominant performance from Tatiana Suarez. Do you think she gets the finish here?
I think the submission will come. What round exactly? I think third or fourth. I don't think it will happen in that first and second. I think like the champion will come out hot, and I don't know Tatiana Suarez to be like a quick straight off the ball starter. So I think like that third and fourth round, Tatiana gets the job done.
Nicely done, Babu. Give it some thought and let us know in the parlay episode which
Yeah.
round tomorrow.
Yeah.
BG, do you see
Yes,
this
sir.
one going the distance?
No, not the kind of fighter that Suarez is. She doesn't really go to the distance. I think she's got two decision wins of that 11. So she's not the kind of fighter that plays for the judges or points. She goes in there and she wants to get the job done from the first round. Like Bano Babu said, she's not that much of a fast starter, but my memory serves me well. She's very aggressive and she doesn't really waste any time. She was looking forward to fight Alexa Grasso as well. She's looking to to take over this entire UFC women's division. I won't be surprised if she beats Weili and she doesn't get an immediate rematch for Weili. She's probably going to go after Valentina Shevchenko. So that shows you where Suarez is at. And I'm just super, super hyped to see her fight again, honestly, because she was one of my favorites when I watched her career come up.
Mm. And just back to the point I mentioned in the beginning, she didn't fight for the entirety of 2024. She did have, I think, 2 fights cancelled, one against Jandi Roba and one
Yes, that was
against
December.
Lemos, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you see that possibly being a factor here? But a ring rust, maybe?
Not for me, because if you look at Tatiana Suarez's fighting record in the UFC, there's been quite large gaps in between the fights, and that's because she's been plagued by injuries. She's just been injured after injuries, going through thyroid cancer and then beating that, and then she fights now, and then she goes through an injury again, which keeps her out for another year, and then she fights again a year after that. So I don't think the ring rust is going to show that much in this fight because of how she's been able to manage the gaps in between the fights because of all those injuries. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's almost like she's made peace with the fact that the gaps has been that huge in between fights. So it's like you have to just show up when you get the chance again. So because she hasn't fought last year, I think she's quite hungry for this opportunity right now. She's like, I need to fight. If I'm not mistaken, that fight got cancelled. The reason for that fight getting cancelled against Jandaroba in December was because they wanted to make this fight actually happen. So there you go. I think she was prepared the whole time for it.
There you go, indeed. Babu, final word to you on this one, and then we'll keep it moving.
I just think like we're gonna be shocked with how good Tatiana Suarez comes out. I think Weili is like a amazing fighter, but I don't
Mm.
think she has the skill set to give Tatiana a long night ahead.
Yeah, I question that one. I question
Sheesh.
that one. My last
We'll
stat
see.
area I wanna
Yeah.
give is, I think this might be a significant stat to pay attention to, is that Wei Li, when in the last few performances, a lot of the pundits have been highlighting her grappling and how far she's come with that grappling prowess, right? And they say she wrestles really amazingly. So her takedown average per 15 minutes is 2.51. Right? That's now and she mainly been fighting 5 round fights. Tatiana Suarez in not 5 round fights, her takedown average per 15 minutes is 6.2.
Jesus.
That's
She's hella
insane.
relentless. Exactly. She's trying to get you out of there in particularly in wrestling every single round. So I think, and that's kind of we all three of us know, to wrestle you need to have a massive gas tank to do that. And we've seen Wei Li, because she's got such muscle heavy body. She can get tanked after 3 rounds. We've seen it before. She gets tired. So if she's getting wrestled from round one, I can see Tatiana Suarez really like depleting her and probably getting that finish in round 3, round 4.
Interesting times ahead, definitely. And like I said, ladies and gentlemen, let us know in the comments your thoughts on that one. But boys, unfortunately, this card isn't too stacked. I know there's been a lot of controversy surrounding the amount of quality fights on this one. But BG, any other fights that you'd like to highlight here?
Um, to be quite honest, I wanted to highlight some of the fights on the main card, but of the 3 fights that's left on the main card, the heavyweight fight, the light heavyweight fight, and the welterweight fight, that's Justin Taffa versus Talison Teixeira. Like it doesn't jump off the page and be like, oh, that's gonna be something hella intriguing. Granted, it's heavyweight, so you might just see some kind of knockouts there. I thought Justin Taffa retired, to be honest with you. I'm surprised to see him on the fight card. Jeremy Crute, another guy I thought was going to retire. I thought he was going to retire because of his back-to-back losses, and then he came back. His last win was a submission, I think. He won he won by submission. But prior to that, he was on like a bit of a rut. And same can be said for Jake Matthews as well. Below that, these guys have been struggling to find their feet in the UFC. Francisco Prado is only 22 years old, and he's very new to this organization. So too. I'm not going to go into depth about his win loss thing, but he's an exciting fighter and he boxes really well. So need to see how that fight plays out. But the fight that I'm really interested to watch, amongst the rest of the prelims and preliminaries, is the two debutants, between Colby Thickness
Goodness.
versus Alexandra Topuria. Obviously, it's Topuria's brother's debut and also Colby's debut, and I find it quite interesting that these two gentlemen got a slot on the UFC embedded episodes, but then they're fighting on the opening fight of the preliminaries. It's like you could have pushed these guys. I would have been like, put these guys in place of Jimmy Crute or Jake Matthews. You know what I mean? Since you're putting them on an embedded episode, give them more props then. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? So anyway, I'm keen to see what the Poiriers brother looks like under the lights. Other than that, there hasn't really been anything interesting. The opening bout. The opening bout. I'm keen to
Yeah, the
see what.
Mongolian.
Yes, Nyamjagal,
Yeah.
Tumen Dembele. Yeah, I'm keen to see if he's gonna change, right his wrong, because his debut fight was terrible and he lost that fight. So I'm keen to see if he's gonna change that because he's got a lot of hype. Got a lot of hype.
Oh,
So let's see
oh.
what happens there. But that's my take for this card, really.
Give thanks, BG. Babu, anything you want to talk about on the
The
card here, bro?
with doing my research about the card, I noticed that like we might not think like this card's stacked, but this is a Dana White card because most of the young fighters that's on this card comes off
Mm,
Dana White's contender series,
yes.
and
Mm,
he catered this card completely to to his contenders that came off the show. So I
Okay.
think it's like he's trying to showcase like a lot of the fighters that came through the contender
Mm,
series, so that we can be invested and look up their fights and obviously
okay.
see them see them grow. Um, I don't think there's any particular fight that's stood out to me besides the main event. I think
mm.
that's the only household names really. Uh,
Mm.
I was shocked to see Kevin Josh sit on the early prelims because I
Yeah,
was like, yo, damn,
another guy,
it's tough.
another house, another not household, but a recognizable name that could have been high up on the
Yeah,
card
yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
I just
definitely.
think that's pure respect to Jimmy Crute and Jake Matthews. They've been in the UFC for
Mm.
years now, and I
Mhm.
think I don't think their fight style puts them there. I think it's just the amount of service that they've given the UFC. So
Yeah.
Dana's like, oh, we don't have much household names on this card. Just out of respect, put the two mana on the pay per view, on the main card. We'll see what they do. Um, hopefully we get something fun, and we don't end up like this past weekend where
We said.
it was a tough watch, but it was a
It
tough
Yeah,
watch. Jesus.
it was
definitely,
sad to watch,
definitely.
yeah.
We've of course also got our girl Wang Kong, who we
Oh
saw at UFC
yes,
Macau. Get the
the
job done
Joker.
against I think it was Gabriela Fernandez. Yeah.
No, she lost. She lost.
Oh yeah, she lost.
She
Yeah, yeah.
lost though.
That was the upset of the
Of the
card, right?
card. Yes,
Yeah,
she
she was
lost.
our
Yeah.
parlay buster. Yeah, so
Yes.
hopefully
I think
she
she's gonna
can
lose
get
Oh,
this
some
yeah.
fight as
back.
well. She's
She
losing
was
this one.
ahead in that fight.
Yes,
And
Yeah,
and then she got
she
then
and
Fernandez pulled off. Oh,
yes,
fuck.
yes, yes, yes,
stopped her.
yes.
Yeah.
That complete heartbreaker. But yeah, that's maybe one to look out. At least that's a fighter that I've heard of.
Yeah.
But okay, boys, then we will call it there.
Mhm.
And I'll hand it
Mhm.
over to you guys for any final thoughts on the card as a whole. Babu?
Yeah, I'm just hoping for a good card, but at some point, like I think like if this card is bad, and then I watch the next fight night or the next pay per view, I'm gonna DM Dana White to give me some money back, bro. Because I can't keep watching the cards that have potential and it doesn't live up to the potential. But
Yeah.
at some
Mm.
point, like these cards need to produce finishes
Mhm.
and need to produce like exciting fights, bro.
Amen.
Yeah.
BG?
No, I'm inclined to agree with Babu, but apart from all of that nonsense, I'm just looking forward to Dricus putting an end to Strickland's career, making him switch organizations, maybe go straight to boxing after this fight. If he loses to DDP, he's not getting that title shot again. So Dricus, go out there and make them know what they don't know.
There
Gonna
we
be at
go.
Niva
Nicely done.
30.
Nicely done, BG. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you have made it this far in the video, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. We are ironing out the last of the details regarding the live stream, which is definitely a possibility this weekend. I would say about 85% secured, so please
Yes,
keep a
sir.
lookout for that one. But yeah, thank you once again for all the love and support. We do appreciate every single one of our subscribers. You guys really help us out a lot. But enjoy the fights. It is on Sunday morning at 5 a.m. South African time. And we will, of course, be back to bring you the recap next time on Fighting with Friends.